Good morning, internets. It is a beautiful new day on a beautiful new year. I'm really happy to still be here. I'm glad you're all here to see me too. And today we're going to talk about something that I've noticed in my comments. There seems to be some confusion as to what exactly matriarchy and patriarchy are, especially matriarchy. Excuse me, which isn't surprising because we're not taught about alternative governmental styles or cultural styles very well in school when we're in a patriarchy. Now, this is not unique to patriarchy. To be fair, there's even a term for it. It's called ethnocentrism. And what that means is that your home culture generally considers itself the best of all possible cultures. And so describing other cultural systems, they tend to be a little disparaging of them and to not present them to their best effect, I guess is a good way to put it. So yes, patriarchy is ethnocentric about other forms of cultural systems, but again, that's not unique to patriarchy. So, goodness, sorry about that. I'm going to start by defining patriarchy because I distinctly remember when I was writing my dissertation at one point, I was trying to think of a good word for a cultural system that was based in domination and subordination. And the best word that I could find for it, after perusing the dictionary and several anthropological books that I had, was patriarchy. And I prefer to use the right word when possible, but it was really interesting because I was talking about patriarchy at one point with conservative white male friend of mine, and he said something that really stayed with me in kind of an unfortunate way. Basically what he said was, "Collie, every time you say patriarchy, I just kind of tune out the next things that you're saying." And it was like, oh man, when you're trying to talk to people, you don't want to have to use made up words or confusing definitions, dance around the subject. You want to say what the actual thing is with the correct words for it. So I'm going to try and define patriarchy, and hopefully that will help eliminate some of the emotional baggage that a lot of people are carrying with it. And I'm going to start by pointing out patriarchy and masculinity are two different things. They influence each other a great deal, but they're not the same thing. You can't say one is the same as the other. One is a cultural system, and one is an element of a cultural system that tells men how they should behave. It's like, here's a good example. It's like saying that church and patriarchy are the same thing. And they're not. I mean, we know they're not. But church or religion heavily influences patriarchy, especially in our culture. And this isn't, again, it's not unique to patriarchy. It's not unique to Christianity. This is something that happens in any culture. The predominant religious system will influence and be influenced by the cultural system that it exists within. So just as we know that religion is not the same as patriarchy, we also know that masculinity is not the same as patriarchy. Or as religion, for that matter. So, to start, what I want to do is I want to give 5 common elements that you can find in most patriarchies. Again, think of this like a slider bar. You can have really, really strong patriarchy, and I'm going to make this up. This is, to my knowledge, this does not exist anywhere in the world. It would be horrifying if it did. But if men were in all the positions of power and women were nothing more than property, literally property, like they were not allowed to think for themselves, they were not allowed to own anything themselves, that would be a very rigid patriarchy. And then you can take your slider bar down to the other end where men are still in control, but well, let's take today. It's actually a fairly good example. Women have some positions of power. But most of the positions of power belong to men, whether the position of power is in the family or in religion or in government or in the legal system. Am I missing it? Oh yeah, or financially. Most of the time, men are in power. And in the more cultural systems, and by that I mean the elements that influence it, I would say financial, legal, and governmental, I think that most of the men are older white men. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm fairly sure. And that is an element of a patriarchy. So, like I said, it's kind of a slider bar. You could go all the way down there and all the way up to there. So the 5 elements that I'm going to describe can be considered practices that you will find in all patriarchal systems to varying degrees. Again, these practices, like the cultural system of patriarchy itself, you have to put it on a kind of a mental slider bar as to how strong, how powerful, or how lightly it lays on the system. So, here's the 5 practices. I'm going to read the terms, and they're going to sound very technical, but no problem. I'm going to take them one at a time and define them because I want to make sure we have clear communication and understanding. However, if there's anything that I'm describing here, talking about, and you still have questions, or you're confused, or I wasn't clear, put it in the comments. I think we have the potential to have very productive conversations as long as we're courteous to each other and we approach this from genuinely wishing to learn from each other. And I admit, I like learning new things, so I also like sharing new things that I've learned. So this is kind of why I'm here. So, but enough about that. All right, to focus on the 5 elements, let me read them off to you to make sure I get them right. They are, okay. 5 different practices that are common in patriarchal systems of domination and subordination. They are called backgrounding, hyperseparation, incorporation, instrumentalism, and homogenization. We'll start with them one at a time. The first one is backgrounding. This comes from a situation where the entity in the superior position, as in the more powerful position, uses the labor and the benefits of having the less powerful person, the subordinate person, working for them, and doesn't want to admit it. Let's see. Throughout my discussion, I may use terms like superior and inferior, or race, for example. That's another one. Or I may talk about men or women. And I want to be very clear here. These are shorthand terms. And I don't want, every time I'm talking to you, I don't want to have to stop and say, race is actually a social construct. Underneath the skin, we are all physiologically pretty much the same. We all have, what is it called? We all have reflective bipedal stance or something like that, which basically means we all have 2 legs, we all have 2 arms, we all have 1 head. I hope we all have 1 head. Our heart is usually on the left side of the body. We have 2 lungs. You know, physiologically, we are a species. It doesn't matter if we're male or female or anything in between there. It doesn't matter if we have black hair or white hair or white skin or brown or yellow or red or black, or I did that one already, or white or purple. I mean, skin color is not really a good determinant for the worth of a person. Actually, it sucks as a determinant for the worth of a person. People become good people because they've made the effort to become good people, and not because of the way their hair or skin color or genitals look. I'm sure everyone here can name at least one person who is classified as superior. Let's take some broad categorizations. Old, male, white, rich, who is an absolute dumpster fire of a person. And equally, they can pick somebody who would be classified as inferior from a social perspective, not from the individual's perspective. Trans person, a disabled person, a person of color. And we can probably, I hope we can probably all name someone like that who is one of the nicest, kindest, most generous people you know. And so I want to make it very clear. I'm not trying to categorize here in the sense of superior, meaning actually superior. I mean it more in the faulty social sense, as in our society says that this type of person is better or that type of person is better, even if they are or are not. So, way off the subject there. Let me come back here. What were we talking about? It was, backgrounding. Yes, that's a good one. Okay. So, what's a good example of backgrounding to make it clear what backgrounding is? I've got a good one. Okay, so take the classic hegemonic family, the social standard of what a family should be. Like many things in social perception, this is not based in reality. It is what society says, you should aim for that, even if it's not a good thing for the people involved, which can happen with a society. But in this particular case, we're talking about the classic family with one male who is the provider, one female who's the stay-at-home mom, and a handful of kids. And in situations like that, it's very common to perceive the woman as not really contributing that much to the family. I mean, she's staying at home all day. How hard can that be? And the thing is, that is an example of, if the man is saying this to his wife, I'm the one that's doing all the real work, that's an example of backgrounding. And the reason it's an example of whacking my microphone. Don't do that. The reason it's an example of backgrounding is because a man is not recognizing how important all of the labor that the woman is putting in is to him being able to provide. And it may not sound, it may be like, okay, she's at home all day, what's so what? But they've actually done studies about this kind of thing to see if it really made a difference. And what they found in the study, and they did make an effort to make the study accurate, scientifically valid. How's that? They'd pick men that were married and men that weren't married, and they'd make sure they were the same age, they were at the same stage in their career, they had the same level of education, that kind of thing. They were trying to make it as accurate as they could. And what they found is, over the years, men that weren't married made less than men that were married. That in fact, men that were married tended to make a third again of their salary that the man who was not married made. I don't know if that was clear. Basically, the man that was married would make X, and let me try that again. I'm so sorry. The man who was not married would make an amount of money, and the man who was married would make the same amount of money plus 1/3 again. And that was the difference between them, that having a wife made that big a difference. And you can see how this can be important when you stop and think about all the things that a woman tends to do for a man who is the sole provider. He basically can concentrate just on going to work, making all the money, coming home, because she's taking care of everything. And we're talking a classic family here. We're not talking one where the man actually understands that the woman is working hard too and is willing to be egalitarian. But in the classic family, the woman is making breakfast for the man, making sure that he gets up on time, making sure that everything in the bathroom is stocked so he can clean himself, making sure that his clothing has been washed and put away so that he will have clothes that he can immediately put on without worrying about it, so that he can get ready, have breakfast, which she made for him. And the reason that there is a breakfast is because she was the person who did all the shopping and all the cooking. And then he can go to work while she cleans up after him, takes care of the kids, makes sure that the kids get to school. This is assuming there are kids, but frequently this type of man wants to have a legacy or something weird like that. And then the man works all day. Oh, and he has a lunch because she packed it. Again, she did all the grocery shopping to make sure that she had the right elements to make him a lunch and the utensils that he needed to eat it and carry it to lunch, carry it to work. What else? Oh yeah. And when he comes home and he's tired after a long day of work, he doesn't have to worry about the kids. He can just sit back and relax. And he knows that after he's sat back and relaxed for a while, when he's hungry, there will be a nice hot dinner for him on the table that she made, but he doesn't have to worry about it. Also, if the kids get sick, if the kids have medical appointments, if the kids have trouble at school, if he needs medical appointments, if he needs, even simple things like just having a teeth cleaning at the dentist, let alone actual, yearly checkups to make sure that he doesn't have a heart attack or something. She's the one that schedules it. She's the one that reminds him. If it's the kids, she's the one that takes off her work so that she can go take care of him because he's at work and he doesn't want to be bothered. And at the end of the day, when he goes to bed, she's there. And if he wants to make love to his wife, then he can. And this is a situation where everything in the family is focused on the man. And if you asked him, he would say, no, I'm the provider. I do all the work. And that's an example of backgrounding. She's done all this work and he isn't recognizing it. He doesn't consider it important. Women's work is invisible. That's backgrounding. So